Hi guys, here we go again. Part 3 of Lecture 7. Hope you're keeping sane. Let's have a look at what we're doing today. One of the key things that a lot of strategy books are going to talk to you about is preparing for this, preparing for that. How do we move on once we get to a certain level of sophistication? What I want to do, go through the slides, and then just to break it up, also have pretty much a conference paper I presented on my PhD topic, which is about the marketing interface with research and development, engineering and manufacturing, which actually raises a lot of the problems that marketers have in general in organisations working with highly trained people everywhere. The context is new product development. We'll have some fun with this at the end. It was very light-hearted. See what you think. All right, guys, let's go for it. Now, okay, do I have contact? All right, think of this chapter as an old mentor talking to a young executive. Very much what the book's trying to do is say to you, hey, you know what, guys, this is what you should know. This is what the senior guys may be talking. It's just to clue you in and tick off a box and say that you're aware of certain situations. Now, when we look at this diagram out of 16.1, we're looking at implementation internal marketing. Implementation is just basically how you're going to get it done, communicate it, what processes, how do you know you're on the right track. The internal marketing is trying to get the message across to your employees, key managers, etc. Hey, this is what we want to do, guys. Get on board. This is where the train's going. And again, the management textbooks have a field day on this. You have books just on this. The literature has been around for a very long time. And you look at it here. You look at the left-hand side. You have strategy implementation challenge. Well, how do you get people on board? I mean, we're used to doing things in a certain way. We know our processes, and yet you want to tell us this is what we need to do. Traditionally, middle management have been very reluctant on major shifts, cultural changes. So, can we have the top one, which is really the reality recently of, can we actually make this happen? I mean, is this just bullshit? You have criticisms, and if you do a search online, is marketing strategy effective? Is strategy effective? By the time a company goes through the process, involves everyone, ticks all the boxes, it's a year and a half, and market conditions have changed. So this is one of the issues. Now, internal marketing is really just a matter of, this was with the rise of the marketing concept, where 1970s and on, we were the voice of the customer, capturing it, but you're dealing in a lot of manufacturing firms with engineers who are going, you're just a bunch of wankers. You come out here, you do pretty ads, we're the guys who actually do the work, the heavy lifting and develop the product, and you're going to tell us that you're important all of a sudden. And that a lot of resistance. You'll see one of my research papers was exactly on the way engineers look at a problem versus the way marketers look at a problem. And it's interesting. One of the jokes is that you're better off teaching a marketer engineering than ever having an engineer appreciate what marketing do, which causes a lot of problems. Now, we're going to have a quick look at what is internal marketing. And again, this is high-level organisational change stuff. You just need to know it because you're doing a marketing strategy subject. If you don't know this, you're ignorant. So how do we do it? How do we communicate? Hey guys, one of our strategies is we're going to push harder on customer intimacy. We want to make sure that our toilet paper, people are happy with it. It's their first choice. They feel happy that they have it at home. Look, it's a bizarre example, but that's what you're trying to do. Now, it gets interesting. Marketing's role is traditionally as a boundary spanner. In my PhD, I pulled out a lot of the classic management literature from the top journals in the world, which are literally written by some of the top authors who've got books in the area. Now, cross-functional partnerships is, how do I get on with managers elsewhere? I've got to talk to them. We've got to communicate. We've got to get into teams. All of this is difficult, and it's about pretty much marketing saying, hey, we actually matter. Whereas a lot of the other disciplines, including sales, actually think we don't. So there's that internal battle where we're trying to communicate our value proposition and what we can return. This is becoming easier in digital marketing with the reporting, return on investment, but it works both ways. Now that they know what we can do, they expect us to stick to return on investment. So what's next? Again, guys, look, the theory is that internally your employees and other units are customers of ours as well. Many papers in the 1980s came out about the use of marketing information, the credibility, and it was a real problem. Engineers want hard facts, and we would give them just low quality garbage. Of course, marketing now, you're proof of that you're highly sophisticated graduates, master's degrees, understanding what's going on. So you're looking here, sort of the trade-offs you have. I mean, look at some of the words. Where you have high internal customer satisfaction and external, there's synergy. But where there's low, you might have, yeah, we're all happy with what we're doing, but geez, our customers, right, we might be the happiest employees out, but customers think we suck. Here, where it's low internal satisfaction, people are forced to work with marketing, right? They're operating with a proverbial gun to their head, and it turns out when it's low and low, alienation. I looked at a couple of blogs while preparing for the lecture, and the amount of productivity lost because people just don't feel part of the organisation. These are employees, and with customers, it just becomes a recipe for loss. Now, again, guys, this is just one of your classic checklists, but as a trainee executive, which is how I treat you, you really need to understand what's going on. Team building. You're going to be working in teams with guys from engineering, law, you name it, that have been thrown in. Cross-functional teams, especially new product development and strategy development, are used. You've got people who don't have a business degree, who don't know what the 4 Ps are. They're from HR, and you go, really, what planet are you on? And that's a major issue. Now, you've got damage control. Managers getting communications wrong. You want to suppress bad news, counter pessimism. I went through a period here at UOW ages ago where it was a very negative environment. We've definitely had great, especially in our faculty, great cultural change, and it's a nice place to work, I can assure you. That is not an environment you want to be in when you just want to limit what your managers know. Morale building, it's great. Building confidence, motivation. One of my PhD students, Dr. Jeanette Rowland, her PhD was on building a climate of trust for innovation. And when you've got this right, things get done far more efficiently. Now, involvement. People want to feel that they're recognised, that there's a mechanism that they can have their voice heard, and that you're just not another number. When you hear organisations saying, I'm just another number, your organisation's in deep shit. And this is what communicating that, yes, you're valued, helps build a great culture. Change management, oh boy, change management, we're changing in a hurry because of coronavirus, but a lot of massive organisations had gotten fat, complacent, and really unproductive, and had to be cut to the bone and started again. Now, goal setting, you're looking at where are we going. Now, look, some of the goals I've seen recently for organisations are just pie-in-the-sky bullshit. That's the only way to describe it. You want to use your SMART goals. They're achievable, they're measurable, actionable. It makes sense, right? A lot of it, people get very excited with goal setting, and there's a serious dose of reality lacking from it. Now, again, this illustration is just trying to show you, can we actually do what we say we do? I mean, you look at marketing and business strategy. You go, it leads to marketing programs. This is our profession. This is what we do. So we do programs that generate sales, build relationships, what have you. The interesting thing is, this takes the company perspective. When I showed you how to critically analyze any case study or marketing problem, it was the 3 C's: the competitor, the customer, and the company. This is looking inside and saying, hey guys, do we have the processes, the culture, the people, to actually do things. And how much resistance is there to internal or support for marketing programs? Now, if implementation capabilities costs do not fit the strategy, how should the strategy change? This is just your constant process of trying to get your message across and say, hey guys, look, we need to do this. Okay, this will get us to our promised land. Now, right, 16.4, you have a look at your fundamental things: product, price, comms, distribution, contents, and examples. How do we do things? Look, the strategy in the plan is very much about values, attitudes, behaviors. This is not rocket science, but this is a nice way to simplify and get to the essence of what we're trying to do. You can get caught up in so much, I call it new age bullshit. Stick to the fundamentals. What do we do well? What's our ethics, our core? Or if we're looking at sustainability, how many people are genuinely interested within? How much of it is just PR bullshit from our corporate reputation unit? What are we trying to look at? These ask the hard questions. And what are we asking internal guys to pay? Now, you look at this. If you come on board, they have their own projects, personal psychological adjustments. A lot of people may be conditioned that marketing is just garbage. I didn't work. I was on the board of a major not-for-profit in the disability sector in the Illawarra. You mention the word marketing in a non-profit set, you might as well say I'm Darth Vader, the Antichrist, Satan, Voldemort. It was just no. But if you said I'm trying to improve communications and relationships between clients and the organisation, everyone went, oh, that is fantastic, I love that. And I'm like, it's exactly the same thing, but people have mental schemas, how they interpret marketing, and you've got to be aware of it. Again, our comms, we use our usual gamut of reports, plans, etc. And distribution, do we have meetings, training sessions, informal, the social versus the formal? A lot of the times, if I want to get things done, I don't go through formal channels. I've got a network of friends that I've known for 20 years, social capital. There are people on this campus who call me up and say, Elias, I need this done. I don't ask why, I just say, when do you want it done? These are all the interesting things of working in organisations that your textbooks don't say, but this does a really good job of doing it. Now, here are just a couple of absolute examples of how you could do it. You've got informal, formal, the marketing plan, you've got your product, your price, your comms. How do you get it across? Right, this is just the how-to side of it. And they contrast it with the next one by going in financial services. Right, what do you need to tweak? I call this knowing your business. Right, where can getting our message across of how by changing our thoughts, processes, we can add better customer value and ultimately results for the organisation. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Notice there is no marketing here. Right? You've got HR, finance, accounting, sales, distributors, customer relationship management, the major concept in marketing, and we don't even exist. This is why, guys, you've got to look at anything provided to you critically. Sales and marketing often are now merged into one unit. In some American companies and a few Australian ones, they are distinct, separate, and there's a lot of tension between the two, as we saw in the previous ones. But value defining processes, well, how do we actually get the job done? What can marketing do? What can it tell R&D, operations, supply chain to get things done that create the total value? New product development, 40% of new products of sales, let me rephrase this. Annual corporate revenue, 40% of that is usually made up by new products or services introduced in the last 3 years. That was the international statistic. I did my data collection 15 years ago. It was still the same then. The recent literature I've seen, it hasn't changed it. But guys, these are your key. This is one of your most important diagrams you'll ever get. Value defining processes, value creating processes, and delivering, and all of your functions. What we call this is synergy. You want total synergy between all of your separate functions, your units, to deliver customer value better than your competitor. I love this diagram. I often get excited by a lot, but this is it. Now, what I'm going to show you now is just where my interest was as a youngster, a decade and a half ago. My research was on marketing's relationships with other units in new product development. Now, I had to go and interview engineers, R&D managers, manufacturing managers. I've never been sworn at so much in my life in a professional environment. They don't like it. So I'm just going to quickly show you a couple of my journal articles. If you ever want to look at it, I love innovation because something's always happening. This corona crisis has created a lot of new business opportunities. They talk about changing the business model. I just love it because it's just never boring. We're not making fries for Macca's again and again and again. Even Macca's innovate. So let's have a look at what I was up to now. Marketing and R&D integration, from conflict in the past to trust and collaboration. This was very much the new age thinking that trust and collaborating rather than being at war with each other is more effective for new product development. When you develop a new product, there's an inherent amount of risk where things can, sorry, just had a message come through, where things come through, again, I'm going to reset, where you can get things done quickly, but you're in an environment that if a product goes wrong and you've lost millions and millions and millions of dollars of money, your career can go down the toilet. So I'm going to fly through these slides. Now, this was when we were a department of marketing. That was many restructures ago. Now, this slide I put up and our professor had a heart attack. I don't know if you know your history, guys, but Julius Caesar was assassinated in March by his best friends. Every time we used back then the word trust, engineer, if it came out of marketers' mouth, they'd freak. So, look, this is what I did in the past. To show you in terms of academic research, what we do first is we look at what the current state of research is. We actually read it. I then went and interviewed people, came up with some findings, and then did the future research for my PhD. So this is a big one, guys. Like, you're going to face this, that depending on what industry you're in, new product development, 40% of new products fail. Now, that's a lot of money going down the toilet. In terms of food products, you have up to 90%. Now, one of the reasons that was suggested was it was a poor marketing and R&D interface. Now, this luckily isn't the case. My research showed that things are improving, and I think my research I want to do next year is on this, to see what is the actual state of the relationship between all of our units. Now, this was called functional integration, which was in the chapter saying cross-functional relationships. The idea of integration is that we all work together. So most of the stuff in previous research was, why can't engineering and marketing and can't we all play together? And the relationship factors, what pisses us off in working with each other? And it was fascinating. I've always loved manufacturing. We had a centre of services marketing here where everyone who was in it ended up being professors. I hated it that much. I was the only guy who wasn't a member, and I just wanted to focus on manufactured goods. I want to see it. I want to touch it. I grew up in the local area. It's the steelworks, manufacturing all around. It's just what I feel comfortable with. Now, these are your traditional, and you can see the references are old, right? Personality barriers, turf barriers, these are politics. Doherty, interpretive barriers. Engineers didn't know what we were talking about. Target markets, consumer behaviour, adoption curves. They just thought we were idiots. Communication barriers were as simple as no one even back then would email each other. They wouldn't talk to each other. A lot of the times they were miles away. And that's your physical barriers, cultural thought worlds, project uncertainty, even structure. There were serious issues on how do you get your units to work together. Now, relational factors, these are your classics, guys, and this is just basic human interaction. Communicating. How do you share information? How do you interact? How involved do you get with the project? Do you cooperate, then collaborate? These are just things you need to do. And a good executive has the ability to communicate and look at the breakdown and try to make friends in organisation. So my view was on collaboration, which is pretty much, guys, you guys are at a point where I don't know how your teamwork's going. I hope you've gone back past basic communication to effective. Do you force interaction or do you cooperate willingly? And then collaboration, which is pretty much we work together. We're on the same team. We like each other. We respect each other. We have common values. We want to get the job done. And this is the internal marketing and the corporate culture side of things. So my question was, how can, if we understand trust between senior managers, is this going to help us actually be more effective at marketing, getting on with engineering? So that's what I looked at. So, I mean, this came across from an actual interview. I had a manager going, I shouldn't have trusted that effing marketing manager. He caused me a world of pain and a career end. Now, in terms of what the literature said was, well, guys, if you trust interdependent people who should be working together, things get done quickly. I don't have to cover my ass every time I send an email. We solve the problem because I know he's not going to screw me over. We're just trying to get the problem done. We can get things together, we coordinate, and we don't have to go through formal channels. This is the ideal. This was the holy grail, the absolute outcome of any organisation where you work together as one unit. Now, this was the goal that, we've worked together for years and we get the job done. Right, just a very basic illustration. But so I put it there, and my PhD actually tested this. That okay, if we develop, is trust absolutely necessary to have really successful working relationships? And my argument was, if you don't trust someone in something that's so potentially risky, it could go. We'll just go to shit. It's the best way to describe it very quickly. I wanted to see what was there. So what I did was I interviewed marketers, 8 R&D guys, and discussed their experiences. But I was introduced by a trusted contact. So what I find? Now, the R&D respondents weren't really fans of ours. Marketers use R&D and then discard them, right? They had a very cynical, or not cynical, they experienced marketers coming in. Now, marketers often are, and this is where you guys actually have a distinct advantage. Marketers are ex-engineers, sales reps, not true marketing professionals. Since then, we have up to 11 or 12 subjects in our undergrad degree. Very much, we are the real deal. Now, it was interesting. When they've been involved in a stable, longer-term relationship, they got the best results. What a friggin' surprise. Now, this was our stereotype. Yeah, we will conquer the world. We'll make a shitload of money. Well done. All right? Now, and we are likable guys. That was one of the things that they said, look, we like the marketing guys. We just don't trust them or anything that they say. Oh, lovely. So this was common. A lot of companies you'd have marketing managers gone. Like they walk in, walk out. And they get to the point going, why the hell should I even bother talking to this new guy? He'll be gone in 3 months. So this was one that really a few managers went, never ever they seen a marketing manager say it was my fault. We were the best at excuses you'd ever see on the planet. So anyhow, what were the findings? Pretty much we had to establish our credibility. We had to come across and say, no, we're here, we want to help, we're not short-termers, and this is a real classic relationship building exercise. And to appreciate that these guys are pissed off with you the moment you walk in the door because you are a marketer. And that's what you've got to be careful of. If any role you have, understand what the existing perceptions are of different units. So guys, what were the interesting things? Well, they all liked developing new products. That was interesting. They loved it. They enjoyed the process. They thought that interpersonal relationships were more important, whether it was a formalized new product development process with lots of steps. And stable environment with management and policy is critical. So this I turned into a questionnaire and developed scales to measure and see how it went. So the future research was, okay, let's see how you guys go in Australia. I ended up surveying 184 marketing managers, and with a different group, even though many of the companies were similar, 184 R&D managers, 154 marketers. And this is what published the future papers. So the bottom line was trust or no trust. If you trusted them, things got done. If they didn't, it was a nightmare. So this was our first paper. Graham Massey's a doctor at UTS. His specialty was a sales marketing interface. Mine, clearly R&D management. European Journal of Marketing is an A star. Yeah, it's a big deal in academia. But it very much looked at what drives success and collaboration. The next paper that I particularly liked was the psychosocial antecedents. In other words, how engineers and us think differently, and whether this has had an effect on how we see our relationship, the way we interact. This was R&D management. It's a specialist journal for, it's an A, which is pretty good as well. But this is very much a more practitioner-based journal where it gives you useful insights and put the effort in still to learn who the person is as a human being. Go and see them, talk to them, show that you care, and try to understand their decision-making styles. Engineers are far more rational. Marketers are becoming more rational and making decisions based on data, especially in the last 5 years with digital marketing. We have now the facts and figures to say this will work, this is what we need. Whereas before, a lot of it was, yeah, guys, I think it's right, but I can't really prove it to you. So again, here's just one of the last slides of how do you bring management in, when do you do it, what are the implications. Now, again, I've got a paper I'm trying to publish, which is on what role does top management have in getting you guys to work together. It's an interesting read, but my other all-time favourite paper, and this is the one, guys, that probably resonates with me the most. One of the great quotes I read out of the books was from Pfeffer, P-F-E-F-F-E-R, the father of organisational politics, and he has a quote in the front of his book that goes, for any new executive walking into an organisation, it is absolutely critical to understand the power relationships in that company. Who's connected to who has the ear of the CEO. And I give the example, you can come in as some hotshot and there's a young kid in a copy room and you treat him like shit because he's beneath you, get my coffee, get me this. But if he's the golf partner with your chief executive officer, or his father or uncle is in the senior executive, your career's over. I love the political side, as in, what was the state of the relationship? Did they hate us? Do we want to get on? So this was probably my favourite paper. Are they there to help you or hinder you? And luckily, the relationship's fairly good, but when our relationship goes bad with other functions, guys, it goes bad big time. Anyhow, I hope I've given you a bit of an insight into my research. I think innovation's a great topic. The more you learn on it, the way the speed of innovation, open innovation is around the world, it'll give you a competitive advantage in your careers. Thanks for listening, and humouring an old man with his research.